Welcome to the very first episode of Each Sold Separately, Collect Them All, an action figure podcast with me, Colonel Rains Carr, and my friend Brian Charles Rooney. This week we'll be discussing some major news out of Masters of the Universe, and also what got us into collecting in the first place, and how long have we been collecting. Also, what are we looking for, and what are we interested in right now? But first, let's hear a word from our sponsor.
It's new for your kids.
Laser lights, it's Black Star.
Defender of right, he's ready to fight the evil overlord.
Laser lights,
The Ice Castle is a mysterious place. He might meet the lava lock face to face.
laser lights, it's Black Star.
From Galoob.
Okay, so Brian Charles Rooney, how are you today?
I'm well.
That's
I'm very well.
That's very nice. So tell me,
How
how
are
did
you?
you? I'm doing okay.
Good.
I got a lot of work to do. I'm directing 2 shows, so I'm out of my mind. But other than that, tell me how you got into collecting figures to the point of where people know you for being a figure collector, particularly the Masters of the Universe people. But how to, being known as, being put on video as a figure collector on the internet,
Yeah.
which I've seen you on videos.
Yeah,
on
I
the
know
internet,
that's a little
is
weird when
precious and
people
cute.
start messaging you and saying, "I saw you on a Netflix show." It's like, what?
Yeah, you're like,
well,
whoops.
yeah.
So tell me how you got into action figures as a kid.
Well, the first, if I'm really fair, were Return of the Jedi toys. Dagobah. No, well, I guess Dagobah was Empire, but it was when Return of the Jedi was out, and my mom and dad bought me Luke and Leia, Yoda, Darth Vader, Dagobah playset, and the Hoth monster.
He's called a Wampa, you bastard.
Wampa, thank you. And I even have the Star Wars Black version, so I have an excuse for not knowing that, and I do know it, I just forget things. Because I have a 3-year-old now, so I don't remember my name. I literally don't remember people's names. I don't remember where I am.
Hilarious.
It's pretty sad. Yeah, so that was short because I was really little, and then we saw in this store called Bamberger's, which was like a department store, not a toy store, a table for the holidays set up with Masters of the Universe toys, and it was Castle Grayskull and Teela and He-Man and Battlecat, Skeletor, and maybe a couple, like the initial stuff. And I just was like, what is this? And I was little, but the castle box, the art of those boxes.
Oh god, those boxes are out of control, yeah.
They're amazing. And it's amazing. I've met that artist, and he's incredible.
And what's his name, because you're a Masters of the Universe nerd?
Rudy Abrero.
Yeah.
And he still does the art for, well, they've had him do some art, but it's digital, so it definitely looks a little different.
Yeah.
But all that stuff was amazing. So that Christmas I got all of it. My mother was kind of definitely a collector mind. She she did collect antiques. I know you said your mom. Yeah,
I'm from a collector family too. So my mother is antiques and vintage clothing, and my stepdad's a massive 50s, 60s model railroad collector.
That's cool. That's really cool. Yeah, so we would kind of go around everywhere if we couldn't find something. Because there was no internet, so it was not,
Oh, no, you had to stock everything.
You had to go to a store.
Yeah.
Or you had to call stores, and you had to have hookups.
Yep.
Like, my mom and I remember her telling me that other parents for different toy lines, they would have, like, people at stores that they knew who would let them know when stuff came in and hold it for them. My most vivid memory of searching was when Evil Lyn and Mechanic were released, and I was more interested in Evil Lyn as a character than Mechanic. I didn't really know who Mechanic was, but I knew Evil Lyn at that point from the cartoon, and I was obsessed with getting that figure. We went everywhere through a week, and then we finally kind of gave up and thought, it's not going to be for a while that this happens, because it was so new and everybody had bought her. But we went to the doctor, and the tradition was anytime I went to the doctor, we went to IHOP and then and I had the smiley face pancake, and then we would go to this other store that had fabric, but also sold toys. It wasn't like oh gosh, what's that store that it was kind of like a general store, Ben Franklin.
Oh,
I
okay.
don't know if you guys.
We didn't have those. Yeah, we didn't have those in Florida.
Yeah, it was a great.
But we
store.
had Five and Dimes and stuff.
It was kind of like that, yeah, but like a little higher end, because we had a 5 and 10 too when I was like really little, and it was small, but it was cool. But this was a little bit bigger, Woolworth style place.
Oh yeah.
And so she's looking at the fabric, and I go in the back to the toys, which usually had nothing. And there's Evelyn and Mechanic like, sitting on the pegs, and I was like, "Oh my god!" So I bring it to her, and she flipped out too, because it was like the big payoff of the week. But yeah, that was kind of, I had everything except anything that was released in Europe that wasn't released here. And that kind of She-Ra became an obsession too, but I wasn't allowed to have any of that because
you couldn't even get Bo or any of them.
No. Well, actually, that's a lie. I was allowed to get Double Trouble because my mother didn't think she had hair. She had a long blonde ponytail, but she had a helmet and the changeable face to make her good or bad. So I was allowed her. And then my grandmother, who knew I loved the cartoon and the characters, I guess didn't believe in my mother's prejudice, and bought me the Starburst She-Ra Crystal Swiftwind 2-pack for my birthday, which was probably the gayest looking toy you could ever get.
Look up a picture, everyone. It sure is.
It's pink as hell. It is
sparkly.
And I think I am a gay man, and my mother, I think, probably thought that the toys were going to make that permanent. It does not work that way.
Unfortunately not.
No.
They're just aspirational.
Yes, they are right. They are, well, and that's another topic for another podcast, because I have lots of thoughts about that. But
me too, yeah.
She bought that for me, and I opened it. I knew that I was getting it because she'd asked me what I wanted, and I gave her a couple different things, and she's like, "Well, this one's probably the best." So I opened it, and my mother's lips were like clamshell tight, like just so she was livid. And then, or actually right before that, it was Christmas, and I had kept begging for Catra because I kept rationalizing that she was part of the evil horde, and so I should be allowed to have her, and so that was, I guess, okay. So I ended up, I don't know if my dad bought it, because I ended up with the Catra and her flying horse Storm 2-pack.
Whoa.
And I had that for a day, and then it was taken away from me. So
this is not the first story I've heard of like this, of young boys wanting to collect toys of that manner. Most certainly.
And I wasn't like trying to dress them up in like party clothes. I mean, I liked the clothes.
You wanted
it's
the character. It was all the character. Cool. Yeah.
But I, and brushing the hair was fun. But it doesn't. I was definitely not a doll person. I
totally was. I was totally a doll person. I loved dolls. I had like the Cabbage Patch style Xavier Roberts dolls everywhere. I loved Barbies. I didn't collect them because there was already too many things to collect, but I did love playing with them, and luckily I have a sister who got all of the She-Ra stuff for Christmas.
See, that's what I needed.
So there was no problem, okay?
I didn't have a sister until I was much older, and they tried, and it just didn't happen, and then they finally did by that time. And then through her, I ended up getting like the Barbie playset to play with, and different like oh god, what were some of the other things that were kind of, I can't remember, but I did like dolls like Strawberry Shortcake. I liked because they smelled.
I may have her Berry Happy Home within 5 feet of me right now.
Oh, I did have it. I had it. And
that thing's tough to carry around, let me tell you.
It is tough, and we had to condense our storage because we had 2 storage units, which is ridiculous. But in New York, that's actually not uncommon.
And just for a toy collector, that is not uncommon. In Los Angeles, that has a storage unit for almost 10 years, I think.
Yeah, I had the Berry Happy Home in there, and we had to condense, and I just didn't have the room for it, so I left it there.
You left the very happy home there?
Yeah, because I knew that if I had to sell it was going to take too
Oh,
much
it's horrible.
time.
No,
And
it's awful.
they were closing the Manhattan mini storage where we had the one unit, and we had like no time to switch. And I didn't want to get a bigger unit, and I had condensed everything really well. And I just thought, you know what? I can get another one of these empty because I still have all the furniture.
Oh, okay. I was going to say, you didn't get rid of that furniture.
And the side wall was broken, so I thought, I'm not going to be able to sell this for a decent amount of money, really. It's going to cost me
more
a lot to ship it. I'll just leave it, and someone can take it and either have it or sell it. It's whatever.
So what you're saying is your strawberry shortcake has been homeless for a very long time.
Sort of.
That is very sad. Mine is standing on her front porch right now.
Ugh, I love
and she's
that
having a
house.
great
It's
time.
amazing.
For some reason, I have misplaced the porch swing, and I don't know where it is. So I need to get another one of those on eBay. But a friend of mine sold it to me for really cheap, and it came in the world's largest box.
Yeah. Oh God, when I got it, it was disassembled, and I don't know how they disassembled it.
And I have everything except
brittle.
that really rare furniture set, the one that's like super rare, where each piece is $100. Yeah, the some of those attic pieces. I have the other rare one, but the one I don't have the super rare one.
Right. Yeah, I have all of them. I have the attics. The only one I don't have the.
There's the one that comes with like a piano and a little stool.
Yeah,
that's the really rare one.
That I don't have. I have the attic set though.
This is a thrilling action figure podcast where we're discussing strawberry shortcake furniture. Like, all the Star Wars nerds tuned in and we're like, when are you going to talk about Boba Fett?
Strawberry shortcake.
When are you going to talk about the new Black Series? It's the same figures re-released, and why didn't you get those before? And why are you so excited about seeing Bosk again after a year? I mean, who cares? Right. It's the same figure again.
Yeah.
And the old look looks better than the new one. So sorry.
No, yeah, that's true. And you know what's annoying is that I've been thinking about selling some of those, like the Luke, because I didn't have that one as a kid, and I kind of was going to go just keep the ones from the 6-inch line that were emblematic or representational of what I had as a kid. But now it's like those were worth something, and now they're not, because you can get them again.
That's true. So what brought you so you were a kid, and then did you stop collecting for a while and then restart again?
Yeah, well, we talked about, I think we've talked about this before, but the '89 Batman movie kind of re-hooked me into collecting.
I've never heard of this movie. I'm too young to have seen that at the movie theater 5 times when I was 14.
Right. I mean that trilogy with Christian Bale, that one.
I love that one. Yes. No, those Toy Biz figures and the whole Kenner set and everything. Those were just, I don't even know what to do with myself. I love them so much. Yeah. We found that in a toy store in Hollywood when we were on a vacation there, and I went out of my mind.
Yeah, Tim Burton, marriage of Tim Burton and Batman and toys for me was a kind of a deal breaker as far as not collecting anything anymore. Like I kind of had, I think, naturally graduated from toy collecting. He-Man had happened, it had gone away. I had gotten into Ninja Turtles pretty heavy, and then that kind of faded. And then that movie happened, and I was like, what? And I got into comics with my friend in middle school, high school. Was it high school? No, middle school. And then started collecting those Toy Biz Batman and the DC superheroes.
Yep.
And then the X-Men line. And that was coupled with collecting all those cards, those collector
the Marvel
cards.
Superhero cards. I've still got a whole set of them.
Oh, same. They're all in this in my World of Nintendo wooden World of Nintendo cube box that a lot of people had. I think that smells really strongly of like cedar, sort of. It's very strange. My friend and I used to make up a game. It was kind of like Pokemon. Like we would take all of the stats on the back, and each one would have a certain amount of points attached to them. And so you would be like, I have Rogue, and the other person would be like, I have Magneto, and then you would figure out who won by how many points they had based on the power.
Well, if she's able to touch him, Rogue. If not, Magneto.
Right. Well,
no, I'm just kidding.
Yeah,
I don't know.
That's actually probably a good match.
They are, because she, yeah.
Yeah, because she's kind of
But I let me tell you, I loved I was after I did collect toys, of course, and I'll tell you about that in a little bit. But I collected baseball cards for a long time, and so that was
Right.
right up my alley when those came out in like 90, 91 or whenever those
Right.
hit. Let me tell you, they were right up my alley and getting hologram Spider-Man and all those
Oh my
cheesy
god,
little cards.
the Venom.
But I
the
also
Venom
was
hologram card.
I was that kid that really loved in the comics reading all the backstory. So I loved the Marvel universe, like the Marvel A to Z, where you would read everyone's biography
Oh
and
sure,
know everything
yeah,
about them. And I read all of the sort of other Marvel publications that would tell you about everyone. That was my
sure.
favorite stuff because I loved encyclopedias and dictionaries as a kid, as nerdy as that sounds. And so I loved just absorbing all of that information about everybody. So when I see little
Yeah.
things in the new movies, or when like a random weird character like Puma in the new Kingpin wave that I don't have yet comes out, I get very excited about it because I'm like, oh my god, it's
No,
Puma!
that's how I felt about Night Thrasher and Silver Sable, which I just got in the mail.
You did what?
Yeah, I got them through Amazon, the
You
best toy
son of
store
a...
that I have access to right now because New York is terrible for toys. Um, but I felt that way about them because a lot of people that I know are kind of like I don't know who Night Thrasher is, and I was like, what? How can you? But I was just happened to nerd kind of fan
Mhm.
over that comic when I was a kid. New Warriors was, and now I
Mhm.
want all of them. Like
Yep.
I need Namorita and I'm hoping that we'll get them since we got him.
Maybe.
Um,
Well, I remember him being in the Spider-Man Spectacular Spider-Man. I was a huge. I didn't collect
right.
Amazing. I collected Spectacular Spider-Man because I'm always the guy that does the other thing in collecting. Or
Right.
instead of collecting the mainstream one, I'll collect the side one.
I think I collected that when I was collecting comics, Amazing, Spectacular, and then the regular, just the
Yeah.
Spider-Man.
Yeah.
For a while.
Because
Yeah, so
I'm not. Yeah. Go ahead. No, go ahead.
I had forgotten about Silver Sable entirely, like until she was announced as part of the wave. I thought,
Yeah,
oh,
and she
well,
was in tons of stuff. She was in tons of
but
Spider-Man stuff.
I hadn't thought of
Mm-hmm.
her name in years, and I just
Mm-hmm.
thought, oh, obviously that figure's been missing. So
Well, I
it's
just
nice
love that
having...
the company is run by people our age and a little bit older.
Right,
And so they're like, you know who we're going to pull out of our butts? Hellcat
right,
and Silver Sable and
right.
Puma and all these and Night Thrasher. And I love the random kind of
Morbius.
the Morbius and all the characters
Yeah,
that are, I think, because I always had those Marvel posters on my wall. In fact, still have my George Perez Avengers one up here that I've had forever. And
right,
I love those group shots where it's all the people standing together. And that's what I always wanted on my toy display.
right.
And
Of
since
course.
I'm a huge nerd,
No,
I've been having one for 25 years, a toy display
right.
like that. But
No, I'm
yeah,
similar minded as far as like the information, encyclopedias, bio cards, things like
yeah, I
that.
love all
Even
that stuff.
even back with GI Joe, like that was one of the best parts. I had to save the back of the card
Hmm.
because I wanted all of that info.
Oh, when I sold off my
Um,
entire GI Joe original collection, I kept the file cards
right.
because I
That's
love
probably
those.
really no, but that's really smart actually because that's probably harder to come by. You can
Those figures are a dime
yeah,
a dozen.
yeah, you can get the figures. You just can't get good copies of that stuff.
Yeah, those
People
are a
didn't
dime a
save it.
dozen. So, what brought you back into collecting after going away from it for a little bit when you were an adolescent?
Right. So then I went to college and I didn't collect anything and had no money anyway, so that wouldn't have been possible. Then I moved back to New York, and there was a comic store not in NoHo, which is not the same as the NoHo in LA. It's north of Houston, which is spelled Houston. So if you come to New York and you want to go to
It's Houston.
you're
So I
on-
did
it's
learn that. I
Houston.
think I learned that the hard way when I was
Oh,
younger.
same.
Yeah,
I
learned
grew
it
up
the
in New
hard way
Jersey,
when I was
not far
younger.
from New York,
Yeah.
and I still didn't know what it was. But there was a comic store there, and it was really toys and comics, and a place you could go to get paint for customs, which is where I would go
Oh,
for a while.
very interesting.
Because I did that for a while. And I walked in, and I thought, oh, this will be fun. And I see He-Man and Skeletor from the 2000X line sitting on the pegs. And I lost my mind. And I was like, what is
I
this?
bet.
What is this? I had no idea. I hadn't heard about it. And apparently, the holiday just before, they had released the line in a toy store, and I immediately started hunting for them, and I went to Toys R Us, and I found Castle Grayskull, Stratos, Beastman, who else? Merman, and then the hunt for Tila and Orko was kind of insane for a little while.
And I mean, the emo Prince Adam with his hair in his face.
Right. Yes. And not pink vest, magenta.
Yes. Yes.
Much more, conventionally masculine color.
Of course.
Which is just silliness. Yeah, and so that became a new obsession, and I discovered He-Man.org, and I discovered the cartoon, and made a whole bunch of new friends that live all over the world, and started going to Comic-Con. Went to New York Comic-Con, and was completely blown away by how judgment-free it was, and how fun it was. It's a little different now, because
the old con
people.
days, yes, the old con days, yeah.
But yeah, like going to Comic-Con, and now especially going to PowerCon, which has been fun for me because
that's still a nice small convention. I've only been once. I went once, I think it's first year. But it's still a nice small con, right?
It's getting bigger, but it's plenty small enough to have like a great time and see everything you want and socialize the way you want to, and feel like actually on a vacation. Whereas Comic-Con in San Diego feels like, it's
Comic-Con's
amazing.
work. Comic-Con in San Diego's work.
It's a job. I mean, that sounds nuts, but it feels like work.
And for our collector friends, it is a job.
Yeah, that is true. That is true.
And it was for me for a long time too. Yeah.
Yeah. And so I've moderated panels for PowerCon. I have been a guest on different podcasts for Masters of the Universe. I have written articles for sites like the Whoosh about Masters, and that all kind of happened because I seemed to become the gossip monger of that line, and knew what was coming before it was coming, and was really clever about getting information. My handle there on the org was BCR Duke, or is BCR Duke. I don't go there as often as I used to. But
I don't do the forums as much either myself.
No, Facebook's easier, and
and everything. Forums are kind of passe a little bit.
Yeah. I still like it. It's fun, especially when people post pictures of their collection.
Of course, and I still do that to show off, as always. But yeah.
And it's a nice way of seeing new things. Like Germany, for example, gets a lot of the new He-Man stuff directly, so they in a kind of a deal with Super 7, the company that's making them now, and so a lot of those fans get the stuff first, so you get to see their pictures,
see all their stuff. Yeah. So you're well known in the He-Man.org community, the PowerCon community.
I would say somewhat infamously. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. It's weird because I'm an actor in New York. I do Broadway and off Broadway, and I concert sing, and so like occasionally somebody will know me from that, out on the street if they happen to know me, if I'm in that area, whatever. But I like whenever I go to New York Comic Con, and it's nuts. People are like, "You're BCR Duke," and I'm like, "How do you know that?" It's easier now because of Facebook and things like that. Yeah. But initially, like people would know, and I had one little picture of my face in my account on the org.
Well, it just tells you how serious everybody is about it. I'm that serious about it, and I've made tons of toy friends, including you, through people you met on He-Man.org.
Yes. Years ago, yes.
And many years ago. And I've met a lot of, great collector friends all through internet-based and Comic-Con sort of based stuff.
Yeah.
So I'm known as, when people are like, "Oh, you're that playset guy."
Yes. Well, that's true.
Oh, I was once looking up this playset on Google, and you're the first person that ever put up photos of it.
Right. And you have every other super rare playset. And one day I will come visit you and drug you, and your playsets will disappear.
That's true, because The Black Star Ice Castle's looking sad because you're not playing with it, and the Crystal
Yeah.
Crystal Castle and the Otherworld Castle Zendo looks sad, and all the GI Joes on the USS Flag look sad, and
The Crystar one is I covet the most because that's a line I've never had any of, but I've always wanted very badly.
I had them. I had everything as a kid except the castle. Because I had Castle Grayskull, and I would take it everywhere with that handle that it had on it. I would stuff every fantasy figure I had in that, and anytime we went to anywhere, I'm talking like a restaurant, anywhere, it would be on the table and be all over the place with everything. And that was because I think I'm a little older than you. How old are you?
I'm 40.
Yeah, see, I'm 3 years older than you. So, Crystar, you just outed yourself on the internet.
You need to edit that. That needs to go away.
Well, I'm 43, unfortunately, and I'm almost 44, so I'm a little bit older, and I had an older brother and cousins, so I got all the 60s, late 60s toys, the 70s, Major Matt Mason, G.I. Joe, Steve Scout, Miko, and then all the early fantasy toys, Black Star and Crystar.
Right. Yeah, I only had one Black Star figure, the bird goon and his demon. And they were not the Flash type ones, with the spark, which
so you
I
had
only
Series
discovered.
1, not Series 2. You didn't have laser lights.
No.
You had the regular one.
I didn't discover until later when they were on the shelf, and by that point I was so into He-Man that it was kind of
right.
It was not going to happen. Yeah, I was spoiled in some ways, and then not in others. Like I was allowed to have every He-Man toy, but no Thundercats.
That's
because
really
they were,
funny.
I think, too big, and it was like you can't start another giant collection.
Which is funny because how I got into collecting is quite the opposite of that. Because my parents got divorced in 1979, which is the explosion of the little action figure, right?
Yeah.
And so at one house, I would get all Star Wars, all Transformers, all Mask, all fantasy, Masters of the Universe. And at the other one, it would be more realistic. I would get G.I. Joe and robotics and all kinds of, more realistic, A-Team, all the different things that are slightly more realistically based at one house and fantasy based at the other. And my parents, God bless them, would like to try and outdo each other. So my stepdad and my mother one year would give me the G.I. Joe base, all the vehicles, and 30 figures for Christmas. And then I'd later that day go to the other house with my stepmother and my dad. And there would be Snake Mountain, all the He-Man figures, a bunch of Remcos to go with them. Also, Black Star, all the Black Star figures, anything that was related. So there's pictures of me at Christmases with, here's my entire Smurf village at one house. And then at the other house, here's Boulder Hill and Voltron. So I was highly spoiled as a child with toys.
Were you spoiled, though, or were you just lucky?
Or I was just well-loved. Just well-loved.
Well, because spoiled means that you've become a rotten kid.
And I wasn't at all. I wasn't. I was always a good kid.
Right. So you can be.
And I was very appreciative to this day. Some of those toys are sitting in my toy room that I'm sitting in right now.
Right.
And I loved them forever. Now, as I got a little bit older, the newer G.I. Joe, the newer Masters of the Universe, like the later stuff in those lines didn't interest me. They got a little weird to me.
Right.
And so I got into baseball cards and comic books more. So I would get the occasional figure from time to time. See, I'm a little too old for Ninja Turtles and all that. That was like me getting ready for high school. And so that was like me picking up that Batman figure from 89.
Too childish for you? Ninja Turtles?
They were a little kiddie for me at the time. Because I was like 14 when they came out. That was a little kiddie for me. Of course, I should have bought them all. I'm stupid now that I didn't buy them all. And I love Ninja Turtles now. But
yeah, well, you could have bought them all and then sold them for nothing at a garage sale.
That's true.
Like me. And that makes you want to never
horrifying.
See them ever again.
That is horrifying. Yeah.
Yep.
Luckily,
I still have my turtles, the 4 turtles, and April. That's it.
I had a bunch of turtles at one point, but I ended up selling them to some guy named Ted Biaselli.
Oh.
So there's a guy out there named Ted Biaselli.
He has no toys.
I've never heard of him, and he doesn't have any toys. And and we met about 20 years ago through toys.
Right.
But
That's how I
through
met
the
him,
magic of toys. But so the first couple of years of high school, I didn't collect toys because I was distracted by girls. And
Whatever.
stupid girls, how dare they? What I tell people at 43, I said I've only ever had two interests. Okay, boy, my only interest are. Oh, sorry, whoops.
Okay.
Oh, geez, I just outed myself
right.
on
It's
no.
done.
The
Sign on the dotted line.
I said I only have two interests, and that's toys and girls. This is why I can
Right.
never make a lot of money or be super successful, because those are really my only interest. Though I guess if I was successful, I could have more toys like Leonardo DiCaprio or something with his whole warehouse full. But
Or Scott, what's his face?
oh yeah,
Uh,
Robot Chicken guy,
yeah, who's
Yeah.
actually really great.
Seth Green. Seth Green, he's a sweet guy.
Yeah.
I've bumped into him.
I'm thinking Scott
I bumped
of
into
the
Seth
movie.
Green so many times at toy things, and so many people are
Yes.
like, "Oh, I'm sorry, Rains. I was gonna sell it to you, but I sold it to Seth Green." I was like, "That son of a."
Right.
I've had so many times that's happened.
Yeah, and he's actually a huge He-Man fan too.
Yeah.
He's fun actually. He's
I used
a fun.
to bump into him at Comic-Con all the time.
Yeah.
For some reason, we always stayed at the same hotel, so I'd always bump into him and say, "All right, did you get all of your exclusives?" He's like, "You bet," you know.
Right.
And we
Like
talk
I'm
about
sure
those
he
a
didn't
little
have to wait in a single line.
bit. No.
Though I can't complain too much because I'm very my friends that I typically hang with at the cons always say I should have been a spy or some kind of espionage person because I'm always able to kind of break into things or charm my way into some kind of
You
cutting
are
the
fairly
line.
wily, yeah.
Yeah. I feel like, well, I have things to do and places to go and people to help. And that's true.
That
I
is
go
too
to
funny.
Comic-Con and half the things I buy are for other people. So,
Always. That's me too when I used to go.
yeah.
I mean, I haven't been
there's
in
the
years, but
justification
yeah,
for
when I
cutting
used
the
to
line.
go. But yeah, high school. So girls distracted me the first couple of years, and then that evil Toy Biz X-Men line came out,
Right.
and that Cable figure came out, and I was like, okay. And I got back into serious collecting, and so I collected all the Toy Biz stuff throughout the '90s.
Right.
When Power of the Force came out in '95, that became a big thing back when I used to collect Star Wars, which I stopped because it just got too much and too nerdy for me. That whole subculture got a little nerdy for
Well,
me.
It's very intense.
It's a very intense, and I'm not. I like I said, I don't like. I love the mainstream lines. I love G.I. Joe, Transformers, and Star Wars, but I prefer Black Star to He-Man.
Really?
And I prefer more of the knockoffs to the mainstream, you know?
Right. Well, I don't know that Black Star is necessarily a
Or not a
knockoff.
knockoff, but I prefer sort of the alternate line to Black Star was
Right.
first before He-Man, so,
Right.
you know. But I prefer some of the sort of non-traditional lines. I guess I'm sort of a non-conformist type, so it's like everyone collects Star Wars, I'm going to collect something else. But,
Right.
I mean, I can't say that I have
I
a
always
huge
felt a little bit
Marvel
like that.
collection behind me.
I always felt a little bit like that with He-Man because when I was in school, I mean, people collected it initially, but then they stopped, and I was still obsessed. And so I was the dork who.
Oh
Was
yeah, my
collecting
whole
toys.
dorm was filled with toys.
Yeah.
And I was
I
dorky.
mean,
now everyone thinks it's great and it's the coolest thing ever, but 20 years
Right.
ago, everyone thought it was the nerdiest thing that ever happened.
No, that's a new way of thinking. Well, and it's
Yeah.
also a new way of thinking bolstered by the fact that I can say to someone, "Oh yeah, I sold something for $1,400," and they're
Yep.
like, "What?" And I'm like,
Yep.
"Yeah, I bought it for 10."
Yep.
It's like
Yep.
that's an interesting part of what we do because it is it's not a job, but it's kind of
Oh,
it can be a job.
it
but
can be. I mean, there's times
some
where I
people
would
have it.
spend probably 2 to 3 hours a day minimum researching, looking up,
yeah.
sifting through auctions, all kinds of different stuff where I would spend hours and hours every day doing that.
Yeah, it's interesting too. I had a conversation about this with a friend not too long ago. I said, it's interesting. I can kind of, I mean, I get into like looking at economic things. That sounds so general, but I don't want to get too into it because it's such a loaded conversation.
Oh yeah.
But you can predict somewhat how the economy is going when things like the toy market start to crash because there's not as much disposable income and
Yep.
people aren't people are or they're selling. There's a lot more for sale, and not people aren't buying. That's a big red flag. Like right before 2008, when things crashed, that started to happen. There was a ton for sale, but not for reasonable prices. And nobody was buying anything. And then there was a crash, and then that corrected, and eventually, and now I would say foreign buyers, non-US buyers are still buying but I would say there's been a sort of a downturn in how much is quickly going for sale.
Well, there's just so much out. I see so many people like binge collect, like they're binge Netflixing. They binge collect 50 Marvel Legends figures, and then they sell them a month later. Like they just have to consume them, and then they purge them very quickly. And a lot of people do that. I know so many turnover collectors where they'll collect a bunch of rare stuff and then sell it within 5 or 6 months.
Right.
I've gone through a big purge because I went back to graduate school and lost my good job in Los Angeles, and so my toy buying days went way down.
Right, of course.
And so I sold 2/3 of my action figure collection in the last 5 years.
What kind of screwed up priorities do you have?
I know. Now there's only like 4,000 left. It's horrible.
That's ridiculous.
Oh my God, it's awful. But it helped us pay the rent for 3 years, and it helped us eat. And you know what? I never was a drinker or did drugs or smoked or did anything that was like just gone. I mean, I love food, but I still, I'm still fairly reasonable about that, except every now and then. But toys was something that has always saved me. I mean, even if it's weird and people thought it was strange to collect, and I still, it has saved me so many times. Again, like, oh God, I can't pay the rent.
Right.
All right, well, see you later, Filmation's Ghostbusters Command.
Well, because I liken it to collecting art, and nobody thinks that's weird, because people are aware of the value of it. I don't think that people think. I think there are more people that respect art collectors because of the value, and that's a very American thing. Does it make you money?
And the value in different ways, the aesthetic value as well,
Right, but toys can be worth quite a bit of money, and if you're careful about how you collect, you can kind of run it so that you don't spend a lot of new money. You can buy things, have them for a while, they appreciate, you sell them, or you bought doubles and they pay for themselves. That's something I'll do with different lines. Like I'll buy doubles and then something will pay for another line.
Certainly.
And that's fun to me. But I feel like it's something that people are becoming more aware of, so they don't go, oh, you're just this nerd who sits in a room all day, staring at your plastic and inhaling fumes. Like it's not that. It's relaxing. It's fantastical. It allows me to get away from the constant bombardment of stress that has become the norm in our culture. People are kind of addicted to stimulus, be it from their phone or their TV or wherever. And I get it. I get why. But taking the time away from that stuff to go sit and kind of relax and embrace a way of thinking that was instinctual for me as a kid, brings me a lot of joy and a lot of happiness. And I don't think that, especially in this country as a culture, we embrace things that make us happy. I know that sounds really nuts.
No, I 100% agree with you. I 100% agree with you. I call my toy room my Zen garden. It's where I go to rearrange and I move things around, and it's things that, as Marie Kondo would say, bring me great joy.
Right.
And I love taking everything off the shelf and putting it back up and figuring out the best way to rearrange, and it's always such a pleasure to just like you said, have a place of happiness, because I do feel like we are in a dark cloud culture, a depression culture.
Yeah, I don't know that people allow themselves a chance to embrace something that that is purely joyful. And I know that people like to party and they like to drink and they like to, hook up and they like to go, out and get, rough in the sense of partying. I see it here in the city.
Sure.
It's easy to see, and
Sure.
it's everywhere, but it's easy to find if you want it. But there's no damage to my brain or my body.
Nope.
Enjoying the art that I find appealing, which happens to be plastic and
Yep.
happens to be
It's
initially focused
yes.
on kids.
It's only a hurt to your wallet. Like yesterday when I
Right.
picked up 2 new toys and I was like, why are Marvel Legends so expensive?
Yeah, that's that's another podcast, and we can talk about
It
that.
is. We certainly
There's
will.
a very interesting turn that happened in the mid 2000s, I would say, and it was driven by Mattel.
Oh, yeah.
There was an experiment, and it worked in their favor, and
Yep.
prices just
They're
skyrocketed.
just out of control. I
And
I collect. How many Marvel Legends did I get for $6.99 and $7.99? All the ones
What?
like Dragon Man that's worth hundreds of dollars. I got
What
him for like
world is that?
$7.99 at some toy store in Los
I didn't
Angeles.
select Marvel Legends at that time, and so now I'm like, what? What?
Yeah, it was amazing and lovely, and I love them. But my God, I bought 2 yesterday and it was $43 from Target. That was a pain in my ass.
Yeah, that's ridiculous.
So tell me this before you gotta go.
Oh yeah.
What new? I hear there's some little news or speculation out of the Masters of the Universe world that we teased our listeners about at the beginning of the show. So what's the news from Masters of the Universe? Since you're the gossip monger,
right, I'm trying to think of what I can talk about without getting in trouble.
Duke, you're the gossip monger without getting in trouble. What can you say?
I mean, I think that most people that collect it know that Snake Mountain's being developed again, and there may be a chance for that to happen. I know that Mattel is, based on what I overheard and witnessed at PowerCon, I know that Mattel is. They granted a license to Super 7 to do some Masters of the Universe things, and then they kind of, I think, expanded the license for 2 years, and this is the second year. So Super 7's been kind of front-loading the year with a lot more product. Their vintage style 5.5-inch figure line, they've now gone from 4 figures a wave to 7, and there's one that just was put up for pre-order. There's probably another one coming in 2 months. I'm sure that those will be shown at Toy Fair. Their Club Grayskull line, which is the classic style figure designed in the Filmation cartoon style, went from 4 figures a wave to 6 figures a wave. And they've done some other specials, ultimate version of cartoon He-Man and Skeletor. But it's a lot of product, and it's only February, so it's kind of like, what's going on?
So there's maybe a shift in that world that we may hear of soon.
I think Mattel has gotten really serious about pushing for the He-Man movie. There was a renegotiation of that license, the rights to that movie, and they renewed it for Sony. They have the new She-Ra cartoon, which I'm sure there will be toys for at Toy Fair. I know there will be. I think there's probably some unfortunate tension there, and I'm hoping that Super 7 doesn't lose the rights to what it's making already, because I think there are people complaining about that company, but they've quickly forgotten how frustrating Mattel was over the years. And I don't think they realize just how expensive things might get. They're expensive now, but I think Mattel might make them even more expensive.
Yikes. So Mattel may be throwing their hat back into, pushing their cards in and all their money into Masters Universe again soon?
I wouldn't be surprised.
Okay.
Which is, and there'll be more to talk about, I think, in a week or two.
In a week or two, yeah. And we can touch on it again next week as well, see if there's any more new information.
Yeah, I think there will be.
Let me tell you we're getting all these pre-Toy Fair announcements right now all over the place.
Yes.
They're showing stuff. And the one that popped up that I've been waiting for forever is, old Mezco and their 112 collective line, which is a bit of a mixed bag, and we can talk about that sometime. But they've had the Warriors license from the Warriors movie forever. I mean, they've had it for like 20 years. Like something, as long as they've been around, they've had that license, it seems like. And they've done different versions of them. They did those stylized versions at first, and then they did the really nice, like 9-inch Mego kind of style line with cloth clothes that are really beautiful. And now, at New York Comic Con, they teased 4 of them for the 112 collective line. 2 of the Warriors and 2 of the Baseball Furies.
Right.
And they just announced a couple of days ago that they're finally putting up the pre-order, and it's going to be a box set of all 4 of them.
Oh, that's cool.
That pre-order goes live. We're recording this on Friday. It goes live on Saturday at 1 p.m.
And how much is that pre-order?
Well, it's $275, so it's a little intense. You have to put $40-something down. But
That's
as
not
a
that bad,
Warriors
actually.
fan and particularly a 112th collector fan, it's hitting every bell and whistle inside my brain, and I'm like, how do I come up with $275 or even the $50 to put the money down? How do I come up with that? Because they're still not going to be released till next year.
Right.
But that was exciting for me.
That's the new norm, though. That, Mythic Legions is like that. I don't know how many... I've lost count with how many things I've pre-ordered.
I know, right? I mean, who the hell knows?
Which is fine, because they end up being amazing. And it's the same with Super 7. They, everything is ahead of time, because it's kind of a Kickstarter model now.
Yep.
Sort of. But that doesn't sound... That price isn't terrible.
No, it's $70 a figure. That's how much those figures are,
I'm
is
comparing
what it is.
that. I'm thinking about the Snake Mountain. That's probably going to be $500 to $600.
Right. I know. I missed out on the Gray Skull. I had pre-ordered it, and then I had lost my job, so I couldn't get it. That's right when that came out. And I was like,
God.
And you know me, Mr. Playset does not like not having a nice playset in his house.
Oh, that's so bad.
And so since I couldn't get it, I just sold all my Masters Classics. Bye-bye.
No.
Of course, all I ever really wanted were those Filmation ones, so I may go back and get those at some point.
That's more reasonable.
That's the ones I really wanted anyway. I never cared about the ones that were based off the old toy line. I wanted just the ones from the cartoon.
Right.
But that's a topic for another day. So why don't we wrap it up here? And thank you very much. Thanks for listening to the first episode of Each Sold Separately, Collect Them All with Rains Carr and Brian Charles Rooney.
Thank you, everyone. We'll see you, and maybe we'll hear from you too. Wait, how can they reach us? We should.
We probably should. So, how does anyone connect with you on, say, Instagram or Facebook or anything like that?
Instagram, it's at Brian Charles Rooney, all one word. I'm on Facebook as well, same name. Those are the best. Those are the best ways.
Yeah, I feel like I'm too old.
You are also.
I'm too old or too young for Twitter. I'm not really sure which. So I'm on. I'm on Instagram. Is Colonel Rains. You can also just look up Colonel Rains in Google, and you'll find my website, Colonel Rains' Toy Chest, which we'll talk about some other time. And
we should.
You can find me on Facebook just at Rains Carr. I'm in every one of those toy groups. I'm that guy that's always posting photos of his toy collection or some rare playset. And I'm sure you've already seen them before. But anyways, we'll get this thing up to you, and we appreciate you listening.
Strawberry shortcake, very happy home. She just moved in and she feels right at home. New Strawberry Shortcake Very Happy Home with Furniture that Mom and Dad put together. Strawberry Shortcake with custard sold separately.
For my housewarming, I'm baking very hot cakes. You better hurry and take your bath. Custard, get off that bedspread. Welcome, everybody.
New Strawberry Shortcake Very Happy Home with Furniture comes with everything you see here. Dolls, pets sold separately from Kenner.